Good evening and thanks for joining us on the program Viewpoint. It is a pleasure having you on this weekend's edition. Of course, we discuss current issues and issues evolving around the world. With us here in the studio, we have an international expert. He is Kema Bernard, and of course, we have Mange Venashus. These are our panels tonight. So to you, Mr. Kema, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, my dear sister Vanessa. I'm delighted to be here with you this evening.
It's our pleasure having you. Mange Venashus, you're welcome as usual.
Good evening, Vanessa, and good evening to our guest. It is the beginning of a weekend.
You should surely be happy about that.
Of course, Vanessa.
Time for us to enter into the first segment. It is the yes or no question. If you are just joining us, you are watching Viewpoint on DBS television. The first question goes thus: are there any lessons to be drawn from the Garbu incident in the ongoing crisis?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course. Mange Venashus?
Yes, Vanessa, there are.
Yes, there are. Question number 2. Suspending Labor Day and National Day celebrations, is it enough to curb the spread of COVID-19? Mange Venashus?
No, Vanessa.
No. Sir Bernard?
No.
No, it's not enough. Question number 3. As Britain and Germany begin the COVID-19 vaccine test, WHO has failed to acknowledge Madagascar's herbal solution to COVID-19. Is it another show of Western supremacy over Africa? Sir Bernard?
No.
No, it's not another show. Mange Venashus?
Yes, Vanessa.
Yes. And the last question for today is: U.S. reaction to Iranian satellite launch a proof of a challenge to U.S. military supremacy? Mange Venashus?
I think so, Vanessa.
He thinks so, yes. So, you, Sir Bernard?
I don't think so.
No. Those are their viewpoints regarding these questions. We will be right back, energy free, for the debate. According to Kema Bernard, in relation to the first question, yes, there are lessons to be drawn from the Garbu incident in this current crisis going on in the Northwest and the Southwest region. So, Mr. Kema, what are some of those lessons that we can draw from this massacre?
Thank you once again. I think the first thing we have to take home is that the government has reacted promptly by setting up a commission that worked relentlessly and have furnished already the results. Those results, I don't think, except somebody has bad faith, we will see that the results are indicating that there was foul somewhere. And the lesson we have to draw from there is we are servants of the state, and that when we are given a task, we should execute that task with respect and honor. Because if that is done, I believe we shall go home happy. The international community cried. The national community cried. I mean to say Cameroonians. There was a foul somewhere. Women were killed. Children died. What happened? We could not, nobody could confidently say what happened. But given the fact that the government took the initiative to send a fact-finding commission, and this commission went and worked relentlessly and came out with this result, I believe very strongly that this is sounding a warning to those that are serving the state to do their work with a lot of respect and honor, and to give back to the state good results which are coming from the field, investigative results.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kema, for your reaction. Mangavena shoes, you support the fact that there are a lot of lessons for us to learn from this incident, adding to what Mr. Kema just said.
Actually, Vanessa, this is one of the incidents in Cameroon that after an inquiry commission has been, set up, and we have the results published, published, I call it normally, because every other person would have expected what used to happen with every other commissions to happen with this commission, because we were thinking that the commission will kill the results and will not publish the results. Remember, before that the results were published, the international rights group have been asking that what has happened. And remember, the head of state gave them 8 days. But 8 days was what he thought. And when I listened to one of the members of that commission, he was saying that the reality in the field was so complicated that they need to use more than the 8 days. And so if they finally came out with that result, I think it is an indication to us that the truth still exists in Cameroon. It is an indication to us that let's not just have this negative impression about Cameroon, that anything that happens in Cameroon is out of bad faith. It can happen that military officers, they go out of their routine, the definition of their assignment. Like he said, there's one thing that I drew from this results, or from this reaction by the president. Yes, no one is above the law. Once it is a law in Cameroon, no one, military or civilian, no one is above the law. And that is why the government is bent on fishing out the members of the vigilante groups who are included in that group, and the 3 military officers who are included, in fact 2, and a gendarme officer. And even a sanction has been imposed on the 52nd motorized battalion commander of the 52nd motorized infantry battalion. So there are every indications to prove to that even in the army, discipline can reign. They tell you, go and do this, do your duty. And like Mr. Kema said, when you carry your duty and come out, let the people have a positive impression about you. Remember, the image of the military that people have had, with the presence of the social media, has always been that the military is against the population. Whereas the military of every nation is formed to protect the territorial integrity and the security of her citizens. So I think from these findings, Cameroonians could be assured that in subsequent issues and in other incidents that have happened in this crisis, if the government voluntarily sits up, we are going to have the truth, the real fact of what happened in some of these incidents in the course of this crisis that is still even going on, Vanessa.
One thing I take note is that no one is above the law and everybody falls when such things do come up. The second question, we asked ourselves the question whether the suspension of Labor Day celebrated every May 1st and the National Day celebrated every May 20th was enough to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Mr. Kema, you said it is not enough. So therefore it means that there are other measures that can be adopted to limit the spread. Exactly,
Vanessa. You see, the government has been doing all what they can do to make sure that the herd of Cameroonians remain in a very good position and condition. Trying to, say, the 20th May celebration, and 1st May, of course, celebrations should not hold, is just one of those measures, of course, because we already know that most of the off-licenses or bars, they close at 6 o'clock. That is effective. Schools are not going on, and many other measures. Before even going to some, let me say this. I want us Cameroonians to put in mind that the government is working for our interests. Our health security is the priority of the state. The state should not be abandoned. You and I, we Cameroonians, wherever we are, should try to accompany the state by trying to see how we can implement the measures that are in place and even go more further, because we are used to the internet and many others. We have measures, we have seen what other nations have done. We should not wait and say, let it be like the case of the United States, the case of Italy, and many other European nations before we start running up and down. It is obvious, I don't need to remind you, that Cameroon is one of the low-income countries, and that such epidemics, the government, if does not take preventive measures, the government may not be able to go for treatment and many others, which the first world are putting in place. So I think that much is still to be done. I encourage the powers that be, the state of Cameroon, to continue with these measures so that the health of Cameroonians will be maintained. Our day-to-day activities will bounce back in 100% success.
Let's not forget that these are some of the consequences as a result of the outbreak of the coronavirus. But Mange Venashus, you of the fact that it is not enough to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Could measures not be adopted, maybe like other countries like Israel during the Holocaust celebration, or Zimbabwe that just celebrated their Independence Day with few military presence?
Actually, that's what I was saying, that the measure to suspend the National Day and Labor Day celebrations are not really enough. Because when we look at it, it is possible to reduce, National Day celebration is mostly made up of military parade and civilian and political parties. Why not suppress the political and civilian parade and let the military do the celebration? It is symbolic for our country. It is not just the matter of going and people marching. No, we celebrate the fact that we are a united country. Remember, 20th May we celebrate the National Day, National Unity Day. So if we are celebrating the National Unity Day, it is imperative that we recall Cameroonians, young Cameroonians, that this is the history of this country. When we suppress it, I tend to ask myself, we have suppressed it on the 20th of May. Schools are expected to reopen on the 1st of June. I was asking, within this 10-day interval, is it when the coronavirus would have suppressed for children to go back to school? So what I was thinking was, other measures should be taken, serious measures. Remember, since this crisis started, Cameroon has not gone down into total lockdown. A country like South Africa has been into their 3rd week of total lockdown. I remember yesterday they were talking about easing the lockdown for some few, activities to take place. And the president gave in, saying few activities can restart so that the economy should be relaunched. But then for us in Cameroon, we are in a partial lockdown. It's like nobody is isolated, nobody is, confined, and everybody is confined. Because when you go out into the market, there are people in the market. When we talk of off licenses closed, they are closing from 6, whereas from morning somebody can drink. There is no number that is prohibited from assembling within the day. So when we talk of 50 people, I was asking myself, I still need to see the market where there are 50 people in the market. Because when you look at our market, you see that we have not yet understood the impact of this virus. So that's why I think that the government should do more than suspending the celebrations of these 2 days, and then invest other measures. Vanessa, in some countries, it even involves the use of force. The use of force. You find policemen moving along in the street, sending, even in France, it was the same case. Once they catch you outside, you have a fine to pay. But then let us try to, and that is what is bringing the results that they have there. If we don't take such measures, we may be heading, toward a catastrophe. Like the World Health Organization Director General said, Africa should be expecting the worst.
All right, Mr. Ikema, you want to add something to it?
Yes, not like, I want to a little bit differ with the idea concerning the March Pass of the 20th May. During March Pass, there is the real March Pass, military March Pass, and the civilian and the rest.
Parties.
But I think that if they say no March, the reason is this. The interaction, you look at the situation concerning COVID-19, you will discover that with ions, it transmits very fast as compared to piece of cloth.
Okay.
So you discover that for the military, they will automatically match with guns and the rest. And there will be a lot of mixing. It is just that, like I said, in a third world country like Cameroon, if people are asked to go back home and stay in their houses, like you talk about the case of South Africa, I bet you will see there will be calamities, because most of us go out before coming back with food that our children eat in the house. That is why the government has taken so much time to look at all of this, elaborate and see whether whether if they say complete lockdown, it should be in a very extreme situation, a case that this should happen. Because if they act complete lockdown 1 week, my dear brother, you and I will not live to tell the story, because you will see people dying because of hunger.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Mr. Kema. Let's not forget that he is an international relations expert. Question number 3. As Britain and Germany begin the COVID-19 vaccine test, WHO has failed to acknowledge Madagascar's herbal solution. So is it another show of the Western supremacy over Africa? Mr. Kema said, no, it is another show. But a lot of people, political analysts, we listen on them on debates plateaus, and they see it more of underestimating what Africa can do to actually bring a cure for COVID-19.
I think bringing a cure for an epidemic like this, the first question we have to ask ourselves is, who is who? That is to say, who is the World Health Organization? That's the first question. When you go out, carry out your research on a vaccine, and you bring it back, it is just like somebody brings up a theory. You must convince people to accept your theory. And convincing people, there are stages and steps and the powers that be that you must consult in order that this vaccine should be properly, of course, acceptable to send to the market. It is obvious that I don't think it is like underestimating the strength of African in terms of herbs and the rest. We are very strong at that. But what I want us to understand here is that there is a way of presentation. And I think that, and the way of taste, of course. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, in normal terms, it is not an individual association that is owned by the country. It is for the whole world. And therefore, if they find it difficult to accept the vaccine, we should then prove to them. We should prove to them openly, clearly, how it is used and how many people we have tested and confirmed. I think at that, it is going to go a greater way to solve some of these problems. I don't think it is a matter of masterminding.
But the fact that Madagascar has recorded no death is not a proof. The fact that the president has taken upon himself to test the vaccine in front of the international community is not enough proof to that.
You said in front of the international community. I want to know, in front of which international community are you talking about?
The World Health Organization, of course.
And the World Health Organization saw the test and they refused?
No, but they say there is no effective improvement. Okay, let me ask you a question.
Do you know when the vaccine was brought up?
No, we don't know the time it was given, but then that is your point of view, Mr. Kema. Mange Venashus, I love you because you oppositely went to what he was saying and to what other political analysts are saying about this. That yes, it is actually showing the World Health supremacy again, or the Western world supremacy over Africa.
Vanessa, like Mr. Kema said, actually, it is the World Health Organization that has to certify a product, a health product, or call it medication that should be used. That is a fact. This World Health Organization that we are talking about, remember, Donald Trump is in, loggerhead with this World Health Organization for having, taken sides with China to hide the data, the information about this pandemic. Good. If this pandemic started from China, and China tells us that they don't know the virus, it means any person can find a virus, a vaccine. If the World Health Organization wants to prove to us that a vaccine can only come either from France, remember French and British scientists are already testing their own, America has been testing theirs. We want to tell the world that, no, the right thing can only come from there. But then, when I listen to what the president of Madagascar said, he told them that he is not asking them, he is not imposing it on them, as you can see. He is not imposing it on them. He's just simply asking them that, okay, continue to count your deaths while we count ours. But then he assured them that they are not going to use any artificial respiratory devices in their country because they have not recorded any deaths as of now. But what is happening is the world wants to let us know that nothing good can come from Africa.
Okay.
Anything can come from Africa. Remember, Africa is one of those continents that is still blessed with some kind of, plant species, herbs that are not found anywhere in the world. What tells you that that is not the species that could cure this virus? When the World Health Organization gave the way forward for France, for Britain, and other countries, even China, to be testing their own vaccine, why not also give it, give Madagascar opportunity to also test their own? They say they have tested it in their country and it has worked. Why not test it in another person and then confirm that actually this thing is working? Or from the fact, scientifically, science is proven by experiment. So when experimental, activities are carried, you either draw your conclusion for or against the theory, like you were saying, that is purported. So I think what is happening in Madagascar is it is possible that a vaccine can come from Africa. It is very, very possible. All is just that the world should open their mind to think that any other person can contribute to to handling this virus. Let's not only think that it should come from something that is white or from the Western world. Once it comes from there, nobody will. Imagine that after 2-3 days, France declares that their own vaccine is effective. Will the World Health Organization also refuse? Because they gave them the go-ahead to start it. So I think that if they give them the go-ahead to start, then I think that they should also, let's be equal in this sense, give Madagascar a benefit of doubt. They should test their own vaccine. If you are doubting, come to Madagascar, take Madagascan citizens, Madagascar, and test it on them. Let us see whether it heals them or it kills them. If it kills them, you have all the right. You can even sanction Madagascar because that is a threat to human life. But if it heals them, I think that all of us will rely. We are going to follow Trump to say that World Health Organization is an accomplice to the spreading of this virus, because Trump tells us that they did not give the world enough
shows, as it is rightly said, time will tell everything.
That's
time
what we
will
are.
Prove whether who is correct and who is wrong. Let us take the fourth question and the last one for today. Mangavenashus, I remain with you. You still accepted the fact that yes, the Iranian successful satellite launch is a proof or is a challenge to the U.S. military supremacy?
Yes, Vanessa, of late, U.S.-Iranian relationship has been, on a very hot, plate, following the death of Iranian general when he was assassinated by U.S. military. Now, Iran, before then, there had existed this accord between Iran and the U.S. that Iran would not be allowed to produce sophisticated nuclear weapons. Weapons. Now, when this incident happened, Iran immediately bowed out from this accord. And the first act we are seeing is they have launched a military surveillance satellite. Remember, this general was killed by a drone that is said to have been controlled from Iraq, from the US base in Iraq. So, if Iran was in possession of such a satellite, they would have been able to detect such a drone and counter it. So I think that US is just being afraid. When you are the head, when you present yourself as a supreme power, and you see anything that want to rivals with your position, you will do everything to discourage it. And that's why US is calling on the world powers to sanction Iran for launching this missile.
Sir Bernard, you are contrary against what Mangavenashus is telling us, that it is not actually threatening the US military supremacy.
Thank you. When we learn from the history of the First World War and the Second World War, the point about this is that the United States of America is the first world superpower, and who oversees the activities of so many nations in the world. The reason is this: if we have learned from the First and Second World War, like I rightly said, you will discover that if certain nations are allowed, maybe because of the presence of dictators, maybe because they have wealth, which has given them a lot of, minerals that have given them a lot of wealth, and which they think that they can build their own nuclear power, and which this nuclear power will not be tested in their own countries. They will use it to test in other countries. If something is not done, I think it is going to bring the world into a chaos. If the United States of America, you remember the case of North Korea, and now Iran, the United States of America is trying to make sure that the world is a security, that is what we call international security, is maintained. That is to say that countries should not, because of their wealth, take certain positions which in the long run can, of course, jeopardize the peace that the entire universe is enjoying. And so, when they take such positions, and they call on the international community, the only problem we will have is there is no competition between Iran and the United States. You and I, even a little child in the house, you talk about Iran and United States, he will tell you that Iran is the baby of the United States. And I think that the United States is not doing a wrong thing. They are doing the right thing. They are not showing any supremacy, but they are struggling to make sure that the international community remain at peace.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkema, for being with us. One last or take-home message to our televiewers.
I want to say I'm delighted to be here. I am always there, and I will always be available if you call me up for any program. I'm happy meeting you for my first time.
Our pleasure to having you on the plateau this evening. Manga Venashus, and to you.
Yes, I want to thank our viewers who have been there and to remind them that preserve yourself from COVID-19. You will preserve, you will save the lives of your neighbors and the lives of your family. So life is supreme over every other thing.
That was it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Hope that you've learned one thing or the other from what our panels have said on their viewpoint. And what is your own viewpoint? Just a time for you to reflect back at home. It is weekend. We wish you a blessed weekend in the company of DBS Television. Do not forget, our programs are very rich. Until we meet again on Monday, stay blessed and take care.